Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has kicked off his 4-day visit to India. The timing of the visit is quite significant as it comes at a time of the growing geopolitical uncertainty and also a crucial phase in the India-U.S. relationship as well. And from the West Asia conflict to the global energy concern and the trade issue, the India-U.S. partnership is now back in focus. Yesterday, Rubio met with the Prime Minister, and today on day 2 of his visit, he will be meeting with the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, in just some time. Around 11:30 is what we are learning so far in the national capital. The discussions are expected to focus on energy security, the trade, defense and critical technology as well. So the spotlight is on the Rubio-Jaishankar key huddle in the national capital. Both the sides are calling this more than a routine meeting. In fact, it is all about rebuilding the trust and locking in a long-term India-US partnership. So on the table today, there will be key discussion on the India-US trade deal. In fact, as far as the defense, oil supply, the energy security, the war situation in West Asia, China and Indo-Pacific strategy, tech and investment, all of these are concerned. The focus, in fact, will also be on the counter-terror coordination and, above all, a long-term partnership between the two countries. So that will be a key focus, is what we're learning so far. So in just few minutes, in fact, Marco Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister, will be meeting at Hyderabad House, and this will be a very important meeting. In fact, yesterday, Marco Rubio met with the Prime Minister, and today in just some time he will be meeting with Dr. S. Jaishankar. Let me get you more perspective and go across to my colleague Srinjoy, who's been tracking all the details. Srinjoy, what is expected from this meeting between Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar? And most importantly, what does India stand to gain from this?
You've spoken about a reset, and a reset is what is happening. After all those problems with 50% tariff and Sindoor and all those things, finally we have arrived at a position when both countries can go forward. And the fact that this meeting is taking place today is a sign that this is going forward. Now, America and India have a lot of things to discuss. First of all, there is this issue of a Trump visit to India, not just for a bilateral, but for a Quad summit. Now, when is that going to happen? Surely that will be under discussion. And clearly, it will either be very late this year or early next year. Besides that, Iran, certainly, Russia, Ukraine, very probably, Gaza, just as important. And then, of course, the matter of energy. Now, if you're looking at energy and the Strait of Hormuz, then very clearly India is looking to America to ensure that the peace comes to that area quickly. India's problems are solved. Meanwhile, Rubio might speak about American gas and crude oil for India. That is welcome too. Besides that, there are a variety of issues, whether it's rare earths, minerals, space, defense. And defense, the Americans are very keen that India buys more armored vehicles, the Striker, and also some javelins. Some have already been purchased. Some more America wants India to have. So there is a lot to be done right now, and we have to see what they eventually say after this, because this is a critical meeting. From here, really begins the reset of ties.
This will be on trade. Thanks so much, Srinjoy, for getting us all those details. I'm also joined by Rubinder Sachdev, Foreign Affairs expert, and also Sierra Claire, Foreign Policy Analyst. Thank you so much to both of you for connecting with us. Coming to you, Mr. Sachdev first. Let's start with the basics, because what exactly are Rubio and Jaishankar trying to achieve in this meeting, according to you, and why should a common man in India actually care about this?
Thank you. A pleasure to be with you and our other panelists. Yeah, very much. Why should a common man in India be concerned? Several things, so we'll go step by step. But firstly, the key word I think you mentioned and Srinjoy also mentioned is trust.
Right.
And what I'm likening it to is, it is a motor car of Indo-American relations. For the last 1 year, this motor car has been going through some very rough roads. Now the motor car is in a garage for its servicing. That is what is happening now. And this past year journey of this motor car has been the most, most bumpy one in the last 25 years in US-India relations. In the last 1 year, we've had, various tensions, yes, which have never been so intense in the last 25 years. So the task of Rubio and Jaishankar is to stabilize this, have trust, and, do the servicing and overall of the car itself, right? Now, trade, definitely yes, but I don't see much happening in trade because American policy regarding trade itself is not clear yet. The 150-day tariff of 10% which Trump had imposed, that has been challenged. When it gets over, then Trump administration is looking at two other tools, Section 232 and Section 301, in which they have investigations going on right now to determine which one of them to use with which country and with what context. That entire exercise is still ongoing. So how can the US and India arrive at some kind of a trade deal other than a big picture? Yes, there could be some big picture because the American administration is aiming for an overall average tariff of around 20%, 18, 20% world over. That's what they want. Out of $3 trillion of imports, an average tariff of, let's say, 20% nets you $600 billion for US Treasury. So the US, domestic policy with respect to trade itself is not confirmed. And in any case, I think the US trade representative is coming next month. So Rubio is not carrying the heavy burden on trade, but yes, he would very much be. In terms of energy, yes, that's going to be very interesting. Rubio will be offering India some energy security, saying that, okay, you can buy as much as you want from us. But then he would rather say, why not you rather buy from Venezuela? Venezuela produces about $1 million barrels a day. He can say, okay, and he can rope in the Quad also. He can tell India, Japan, and Australia, you each three buy 300,000 barrels a day of Venezuelan oil. That will give you some energy security of assured long-term supply. And the beauty of this is that the Venezuelan oil is being sold by the US government. The money goes into the US Treasury. And then from that money goes to the Venezuelan oil company. So the US Treasury keeps X%, maybe 10%, 20% of that money. So this is straight away earning for the US government. And he can very well position it as, okay, I'm giving you at least some basic building blocks of your energy security. And all of Venezuelan production is taken care of. I mean, these are some things perhaps.
All right, so all eyes will be on this crucial meeting that is going to start in just some time. Stay on with us. In fact, let me take our viewers to what can be expected today because it is going to be a power-packed day as far as the visit of Marco Rubio is concerned. In just some time, in fact, Marco Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar will be meeting at the Hyderabad House in the national capital. 12 o'clock will be very important because there will be a joint press briefing by both Marco Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar. There will be a few announcements as well. It remains to be seen what that is. 12:30. There will be a working lunch, and at 6:30, and we will be keeping our focus on this, Marco Rubio will be addressing. It remains to be seen what he really has to say because yesterday he met with the Prime Minister and today he will be meeting with Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister. Tomorrow he will be going likely to Jaipur and Agra, and day after tomorrow, and that will be a key focus day, he will be attending the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in the national capital. In fact, after he met with the Prime Minister yesterday, listening to what he said.
This relationship between our two countries is at the cornerstone of our approach to the Indo-Pacific. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but I was sworn in as Secretary of State on Tuesday or Wednesday. It was a Tuesday after the inauguration. Within the hour, I was at the State Department, spoke briefly, as is tradition, in the lobby of that building to our staff, and then went immediately upstairs to the 8th floor. And my first meeting, my very first meeting officially as Secretary of State, was a meeting of the Quad. And we were going to renew that. We did it again last year in a different setting, and we chose to do it here. We wanted to do it here, not just because of our commitment to that structure of work, but also as a tangible sign.
In fact, these are the live visuals coming in from the national capital of the meeting that has already started, in fact, between Dr. S. Jaishankar and, in fact, Marco Rubio there on the screen. These are the visuals coming in from the Hyderabad House. They're on the screen of the crucial meeting that will be taking in between the two leaders there, in fact, Dr. S. Jaishankar and Marco Rubio. And we're learning as far as the key focus is concerned, it will be on energy security, trade, defense, and critical technology. All right, let me also go across to Suyara Clear, foreign policy analyst. How do you look at this visit of Marco Rubio? Because Rubio's visit comes at a time and months after the friction between India and US. So does this, according to you, signal deeper alignment and reset between the two countries?
Important. I think the relationship is vitally important. And so I think that what it could be accomplished during this visit, one of the things that Secretary Rubio mentioned and that I've been saying is that we really hope to see the trade deal finalized. And so, steps like that are vitally important to the relationship, but also to, going forward and all of the other things that we want to work on together, which affect the wider world. So, and as Secretary Rubio said, the Indo-Pacific security, I think that is, everyone can see that is good.
Just because we have converging interests on many issues and in many parts of the world. So I look forward to our conversation today. These are complicated times, but as strong partners, I'm very confident we'll have very open and productive discussions. Once again, a very warm welcome.
Well, thank you for welcoming us and our entire delegation. It's already been a fantastic first day, and we're looking forward to our visits and our talks today and learning more about the country. And here, a 4-day trip probably doesn't do a country of this size and diversity justice in terms of all the things we need to learn and see, but it's certainly a good start. And so thank you for welcoming us the way you do. And as you've highlighted, the United States and India aren't just allies, we're strategic allies, and that's a critical importance. We obviously work with countries all over the world and all over the region on a variety of issues as they emerge, but our strategic partnership is what sets this relationship apart, because it's not simply limited to the region. It extends to opportunities to cooperate globally in different regions of the world. And that includes potentially, as I said, even as we discussed a bit last night at dinner, or in the Western Hemisphere and places like that. So thank you for welcoming us. We have a lot to discuss and a lot to work on, but this is we are the two largest democracies in the world, and so that alone is a baseline for incredible cooperation. But we have so many common interests that it makes all the sense in the world for us to continue to build, really, to build upon. This is not about restoring or reinvigorating. I've seen some people use that terminology. This is about continuing to build on what is already a very solid and strong strategic partnership, one of the most important ones that we have, and I would argue one of the most important ones in the world. So thank you.
All right, there you see External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar welcoming U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio ahead of the crucial talks in the national capital. View of the ties and the partnership between the two countries. Both the sides are expected to discuss a wide range of issues from energy security to defense, trade, technology, geopolitical developments, because this comes at a time when the war is also going on in West Asia, and the meeting comes amid the global uncertainty, making today's engagement mainly significant for both the national capital and the United States. In fact, this comes a day after Marco Rubio met with the Prime Minister as well.
Now we have a comprehensive global strategic partnership, which I think in plain language means that we have a very deep, very broad-based cooperation and a relationship that impacts and influences other regions and the world. And that is because we have converging interests on many issues and in many parts of the world. So today, these are complicated as strong, very confident, very open.
Now, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar emphasizing the depth of the India-US relationship, saying that the two countries share a very deep ties because there is a significant convergence on many of the key issues there as well. And those remarks, in fact, reflecting the alignment that has strengthened between the national capital and Washington across areas like defense, tech, trade, energy security, and the regional stability as well. And he has started his formal discussion with these remarks. And in fact, he has also said that he's looking forward to a fruitful discussion with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, is what we're learning so far. Let me also once again bring in Ravinder Sachdev on this. How do you look at the opening remarks by both External Affairs Minister and also Marco Rubio just before these crucial talks?
Thank you. I mean, Minister Jaishankar remarks were very much absolutely contextual and the right, protocol as he worded, and even Rubio replied in a similar big picture. But I want some things very interesting in what Rubio said. One, he said that, yeah, there are many opportunities, not only bilateral, but also regional and also global, and also in the Western Hemisphere for India. That's a pretty interesting, mindset, I would think, and say that, okay, fine, yes, we do understand India has a global role. India is global. But if he's mentioning that India could have some opportunity in the Western Hemisphere, I don't know what it means, but that's pretty interesting to hear. Secondly, he seemed to acknowledge the fact that you and we were discussing about trust, and the motor car is in the garage for its servicing. He said that I don't think we are here to be restoring or rejuvenating the relationship, as I've been hearing many people talk about it. So that means he does recognize that the thinking in India is that the relationship between the two countries need to be brought back onto some track. And thirdly, an overall observation, it's pretty interesting. He said that, I'm here to see and learn, and India is a big country, and 4 days is not enough to learn about India.
All right.
It smacks a little bit of, old-time attitudes that the West is still discovering India. I mean, it kind of indicates that, don't you know India so far reasonably well in terms of geopolitics, but that's all polite. But one key other thing with respect to the Rubio meeting, I think India would want to see the question of the tilt to Pakistan also addressed in these meetings.
All right, so all eyes will be on the outcome of this meeting, and as those live visuals continue to come in from the national capital, both the leaders have underlined the growing depth of the India-US relationship. The talks are about to start. Let me also go across to our consulting editor, Srinjoy Chaudhary. Srinjoy, take us through the key takeaway as far as the opening remarks of Dr. S. Jaishankar and Marco Rubio are concerned.
Well, it clearly shows both sides want to work together and work well and ensure that this leads to some success. And this is just the beginning, is the point that is being made, because a lot more remains to be done. Yes, a lot has been done. A lot will be achieved from this. But while a lot will be done, a lot remains to be done. And as a result, important visits are coming up. The trade deal has to be signed. The President Trump may be here. You heard President has invited Prime Minister Modi. So all of those things are now coming up.
Conversation, the discussion is about to start, is what we are learning so far. Let me also go across to our guest, Sierra Claire, foreign policy expert. Thank you so much for connecting with us. As you were making your point about the visit of Marco Rubio to India, because this has come after months of friction between India and US. So what does this meeting actually signal? Does it signal reset of the ties, a deeper alignment between the two countries?
Yeah, I think it does signal deeper alignment. I think that, when what we have learned from this Iran conflict, which has, of course, unfortunately affected India, and as you mentioned, there's been friction around that. But what we've also learned is that, some of our allies that we thought we had things in common with, we may not have as much in common with. And we're seeing from India, and so as we're looking on the horizon, we're actually seeing from India that we might have a lot more things in common with, and will continue to find more commonality in the future as these global powers shift and as threats emerge. So I think it's a very important visit, and I think that it is a signal that the ties are deepening.
All right, let me once again bring in Robinder Sachdev on that. What, according to you, are the real pressure points that both the sides will be discussing behind the closed doors today? Because yesterday, Marco Rubio met with the Prime Minister. There was key discussion as far as the geopolitics, the trade, tech that is concerned, also defense. But as far as today's meeting is concerned, this comes 2 days ahead of that crucial Quad foreign ministers meeting. What do you think would be the real pressure point in this meeting?
I think in a big picture, the two sides have their own priorities. And by the way, those priorities are different. America wants market access in India. America wants also agriculture sector opened in India. Rubio wants also, defense purchases. Let's say those are something that America would want, apart from the geopolitical. India wants, first of all, low tariffs. Because to the common man, 1% loss or 1% increase in tariff in American imports or for America means $1 billion of exports lost by India, and $1 billion exports nurtures or supports an ecosystem of about 100,000 jobs. So every 1% tariff in American exports hurts and affects us. To the question earlier you had about the common man. So that's why that is one of the top priority. Low tariffs and predictable. Second is, kindly explain the Pakistan tilt. That's what India is looking at, right? So there is a difference in, the priorities. And then, of course, our energy security, more technology transfer in defense. America is talking about F-35, fair enough, but then there's always a question of how much of tech transfer would be there, for the country. In terms of visas, by the way, in terms of the common man, coming back to that thing again, there will be no relief or nothing regarding visas. For example, people thinking H1 and green card is in the news recently also. So all of those things are beyond the remit or of the State Department. Those are very different issues. So immigration would be touched, but immigration is an overall American policy, not specific to India, right? So we will not see I don't anticipate any relief in the visa matters where it will be H1 or the backlogs. Maybe they can expedite. They can say that, okay, we will put more personnel, more officials on the job in Delhi, Chennai, Bombay, wherever the consulates are, so that the visa processing time is reduced. But other than that, pretty much it remains all there. Those are some of the, I think, topics. For India, it's much more again about, why America has been treating India as a lightweight, it seems. They've been ignoring India's, if not concerns, India's concerns and sentiments. So I think we would want, Jaishankar ji and India would want to get some better understanding of where America is at. And as Rubio said that he's looking to learn about India, fair enough. So this is what he would be perhaps taking away, that how much India feels, hurt also by some of the developments which have happened in the last 1 year.
So the key meeting that is currently underway, in fact, in just some time, we were learning that Marco Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar, they will also be, in fact, briefing the media as well about the discussions that are currently taking place. Just a while back, in fact, Dr. S. Jaishankar welcomed U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio ahead of the crucial talks in the national capital. Listen in to what he said.
So let me begin. Secretary Rubio, very warm welcome. I know this is your first visit. Looking forward to our discussions today. Now, we have a comprehensive global strategic partnership, which I think in plain language means that we have a very deep, very broad-based cooperation and a relationship that impacts and influences other regions and the world. And that is because we have converging interests on many issues and in many parts of the world. So I look forward to our conversation today. These are complicated times, but as strong partners, I'm very confident we'll have very open and productive discussions. Once again, a very warm welcome.
So those were the opening remarks by our External Affairs Minister. Let me once again bring in Sierra Claire, foreign policy expert, because let's talk about China factor as well. This comes a few days after Donald Trump met with the Chinese president. So what role, according to you, does China play in shaping the tone and the substance of the talks that are currently underway between Dr. S. Jaishankar and Marco Rubio?
Well, I think that China, we've seen from China that they seek dominance. They are expansionist in nature. And nothing that China did during the summit with President Trump signaled that they're changing that. I think it was a productive meeting with President Trump, but a lot of our suspicions or concerns were simply reaffirmed. They were not, neutralized in any way. And so when we're looking at what now Secretary Rubio is coming to India, this is about, what's going to happen in the future with China, how we're going to counter China. And, not only
Sorry for cutting you off. To get us more perspective, let me go across to our managing editor, Zaka Jacob. Thank you so much for connecting with us. How crucial is this meeting between Marco Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar?
Oh, it's hugely important. It's the first time that the Secretary of State is coming to India after President Trump got elected for a second term last year. So it's hugely important, not just today's meeting. There will also be the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting that will happen the day after tomorrow. I think it comes at a time of great geopolitical flux. We have the ongoing war in Iran, where there seems to be some kind of an agreement on the anvil. At least that's what it seems like. If we were to go by what President Trump put out on Truth Social a few hours ago, India is also extremely concerned about the war in West Asia, not least because of the fallout it's having on oil prices here in India. Domestically, the government, has had to raise prices 3 times in the last 10 days, and that is not something that's politically particularly palatable for any political party or government. So that's of prime concern. There are still some Indian ships that are stuck on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz. So India has a huge skin in the game for this war to come to a quick end and for the reopening of the strait. So that's one part of it. But bilaterally also between India and the United States, remember through much of last year, the big focal point was around trade and tariffs. And finally, earlier this year, we had a limited trade deal at about 18%. The tariff was agreed. But subsequently, the U.S. Supreme Court at least operationally declared that the president did not have the powers to impose tariffs on countries that were exporting into the United States. So that matter is also legally under challenge right now in the U.S. So I think this gives an opportunity to both sides to try and assess the geopolitical and strategic parts of the relationship. It also comes at a time where just a few days ago we saw President Trump and President Xi Jinping in Beijing in what seemed like a reset moment that China had sort of announced to the world, at least through the optics of those 2 days that President Trump spent in Beijing. It seemed like China was announcing to the world that it is no longer just a competitor with America, that it is a near superpower, if not a peer superpower of America. And that has, of course, ramifications for India, because India has had its own long share of problems with China, not least the border dispute, what happened in Galwan 5-6 years ago. All of these are concerns that India has. And of course, there is the Indo-Pacific as well, which they will talk about, I'm sure, in greater detail when the Quad foreign ministers meet. But I think fundamentally, this is about reassuring or a degree of reassurance from the Trump administration that they have not forgotten the Asia-Pacific, or they've not forgotten the Indo-Pacific, and that they are not trying to establish some kind of a new working equation with China, which would have consequences for countries like India, Japan, Australia, etc. We will get to know more of it over the next 2 days, but I think it's a hugely important meeting. You will see some announcements. I'm given to understand that something on critical minerals, an agreement on critical minerals, is going to be announced at the end of this meeting. Remember, India had been formally invited to be part of the Pax Silica arrangement, which is America bringing together a bunch of countries to try and shore up supply chain logistics as far as the supply of critical minerals is concerned, in India as part of that. So all of these topics will come up for conversation between Dr. Jaishankar and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and we'll await an outcome document. There's going to be a joint press briefing at the end of the talks today. There will also be a working lunch, and later on this evening, the Secretary of State will officially kickstart the America Freedom at 250 cultural program in the evening. Remember, this is the 250th year of American independence, so there will be a lot of celebrations that are going to be undertaken by U.S. embassies around the world, including the U.S. Embassy here in Delhi. So all of that and more, it's going to be an action-packed sort of 3 or 4 days that Secretary Rubio will be here in India. He was in Kolkata yesterday. There was a reception in his honor that was hosted by the ambassador inside the embassy last evening. Today, the meeting with Dr. Jaishankar. He's also called on the Prime Minister. And then I think he goes to Jaipur as well as to Agra. And then on Tuesday, you will have the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting. So it's going to be an action-packed 3 or 4 days for Secretary of State here in his time here in India.
Absolutely. And now all eyes will be on the press briefing and the outcome of this crucial meeting between Marco Rubio and Dr. S. Jaishankar. Thank you so much, Zaka Jeka, for putting that into perspective. And with this, we're taking a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.